Good morning, Virginia. This is WGFW 88.7 on the FM dial, Drakes Branch, Virginia. The time is 9:15. This is Story Time, brought to you by Safe Haven Ministries. I am your host, Brother D. As always, let us begin with a word of prayer. Father, we thank you for this day, and we thank you for our many blessings, the first of which we woke up to this beautiful morning. Father, we ask you be with those that are traveling today. Please be with them, keep them safe. We also ask that you be with those that are sick. Touch them with your healing hand. All this we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. Duh, Brother D. I know what we're going to do today. I know what we're going to do today. No cheat sheet, dog? Duh, nope, no cheat sheet. I'm concentrating for once. Good for you, dog. Good for you. Now, let me ask you something. I saw you swatting at a mosquito just a little bit ago. Have you ever thought that insects have their place? Duh. No, I wish Noah had swatted those two pesky mosquitoes when they got on the ark. Well, think about this. Have you ever thought about what the world would be like without insects? Oh yeah, there'd be no mosquitoes to bite and no houseflies to swat, and there'd be no wasps to sting. Well, dog, if those ideas sound attractive to you, consider also there would be no colorful butterflies to watch. Duh, wait a minute. That's right, dog. If you do one, they all go. There'd be no honey for you to eat. And we know how much you like honey. Duh. Oh, this is not getting good. Winnie the Pooh wouldn't be happy either. That's right, dog. And think about this. There'd be no crickets to listen to at night. There would be fewer flowers and hardly any fruit. Duh, this isn't good, is it, Brother D? That's right, dog. You see, without insects, many plants and animals would die. You see, the links between insects and other insects, and between insects and plants, and even between insects and other animals are therefore very important indeed. For example, think about this. Without the night flying insects, bats would cease to be. Okay. What else? Well, horned toads, which stationed themselves on anthills to feed on the residents, would soon be hungry. And some lizards would die out completely. Uh-oh. Uh, Let me guess, there'd be no more swallows or flycatchers or woodpeckers, just to name only three of the bird families that sustain themselves on insects. That's right, dog. They'd be gone. Now you consider a chain of events that would happen. There would be no insects for the little fish to eat, and the little fish would die. And because of this, there'd be no food for the bigger fish in the rivers and ponds. And so it would go on and on and on. Oh, man. And without insects to help pollinate the plants and everything, many of the important food plants would die. There would be no food for some of the grazing animals of the desert, none for the deer nor the rabbits. Even the insects that are harmful to plants and other insects and help in the overall balance by keeping down some types of others that may survive, they'd be gone too. You know, you stop and think about this. There is no computer capable of arranging the millions of details it would take to program life on Earth as it is. Now, if you take out the links in the chain, that whole chain starts to break down. And it is extremely interlaced and interrelated. And you stop and think, only the mind of God can keep it operating. Because without His support and constant attention, everything on Earth would eventually die. Duh, I never thought about that. And NASA's best supercomputers can't keep things operating like God can it, Brother D? That's right, dog. That's the thing. And in Job chapter 12, verses 9 and 10, it says, "Who among all these does not know that the hand of the Lord has done this, and in whose hand is the life of every living thing, and the breath of all mankind?" Now, you stop and think. Insects have their place. Duh, I never thought about that. Well, let me ask you this. Have you ever heard of a solitary wasp? Duh, no, I haven't, Brother D. Well, look at let's go this way. Moses' mother took great care to protect her son while he was in the ark among the bulrushes. Now you stop and think. The solitary wasp also has the mother instinct to protect its offsprings. This particular wasp doesn't live in a colony like the ones that build paper nests under the eaves or in a hedge. Oh man, I know they get a little upset when you mess with that nest. That's right, dog, but you see, the female solitary wasp, she digs a single burrow in which she lays her eggs. Now, after laying them, and then providing the coming hatchlings with a paralyzed spider for food, the wasp begins to work feverishly to fill in the entrance to the burrow. Now, using her front feet, she first kicks in loose dirt into the opening and rams it with the tip of her abdomen. She moves so rapidly that her body is a blur. She scatters the remaining loose earth so all evidence of the digging is removed. Then, carrying away pine needles, twigs, and other debris that clutter the area near the entrance. Now, the area is clear, and more earth is needed. So, digging up more soil, she places it on the entrance, and she continues to ram it with her body. But she's still not satisfied. Now she looks for a stone. Perhaps she finds that they are too heavy for her to pick up with her mouth. Yet the entrance is not as solid looking as the surrounding ground, and she must not leave that nursery uncamouflaged. So, if a stone can be found, it will be used. If not, the wasp will conceal the nursery's opening by tearing away the surrounding soil and leveling it until it merges with the nursery's entrance so that nothing suggests that the ground has ever been disturbed. Oh man, that parent wasp works real hard to hide her young, doesn't she, Brother D? That's right, Dawg. And Moses' mother was also very diligent to conceal him from those who would have killed him. But you know, these are only weak illustrations of the concern that God has for you and me from the dangerous tempter and his evil agents. God will hide us if we let him, won't he, Brother D? Well, we can rest in peace knowing that we are all safe at all times with Jesus as our protector and God as our Father. It doesn't mean that we're going to have a life that is a bed of roses, but we know that God is there for us, and his promises are always true. Exodus chapter 2, verse 3 says, "But when she could no longer hide him, she took an ark of bulrushes for him, and daubed it with asphalt and pitch, and put the child in it, and laid it in the reeds by the river's bank." That's right, Dawg. And you stop and think. Moses' mama loved him so much that she did everything she could to protect him. I got one for you, Brother D. Have you ever thought about the mother spider? Well, you know, I'm not really scared of spiders like a lot of people, but even though many people cringe at the thought of a spider, you got to stop and think. This eight-legged creature is one of the most interesting in all the world. They're not an insect. Nope, they're not. And all spiders produce silk, but not all of them will spin webs. One of the unique characteristics of spiders is the way the webless spider mothers care for their young. Tiny white eggs are encased in a wrapping of silk and carried around by the mother. The whole bundle is attached to the mother's abdomen, and as she goes about her daily business, the eggs are dragged along behind her. In order that the bundle will not be too heavy, some of the hunting spiders lay only a few eggs at a time. Others hang the wrapped eggs on a twig while they hunt. Now, some spider mothers eat very little or nothing at all during the 2 weeks or so that the eggs are incubating. Now, a mother spider will fight fiercely to defend her egg cases or her babies, but she will not fight unless she has possession of the young or the eggs. You see, she needs a reason to fight, and her babies are more than enough reason. But if you take away her bundle, she may go limp as if dazed. But if you give it back to her, she will rear up on her 2 pair of back legs while throwing tiny punches with the front 2 pair. Now, if something else is substituted in the bundle for her eggs, such as a piece of popcorn or a wad of paper, she will continue to fight as though her eggs were in her possession. It doesn't seem to matter what the bundle contains, so long as she has it. Now, of course, the reason is that the mother spider is going to always have spider eggs in her bundle. Naturalists aren't going to meddle very often, so she doesn't need to recognize anything else. Duh, I never thought about that. Well, we have seen that a mother spider, deprived of her children, stops fighting for them and no doubt soon forgets about them. So, as our text that we're about to read says, a human mother may forget her baby, but our Father in heaven, God, never forgets us. No matter how far we may be removed from Him spiritually, He will always try to bring us back as long as there is any possibility. uh, uh, and the verse you're talking about comes from Isaiah 49:15. It says, "Can a woman forget her nursing child? Surely they may forget, yet I will not forget you." That's right. God will not forget you. Now then, Dawg, do you know what time it is? Duh, yeah, I do. We get to start a new story. Yuki, uh, an Alaskan adventure and everything in chapter 1 with Pastor Brian. And here comes Pastor Brian.
Chapter 1 The Accident. Yuki sat on a driftwood log and gazed at the wide expanse of the Bering Sea. His long black hair tossed as he threw his head back and took a deep breath of the salty air. He never grew tired of watching the powerful winds of a storm whip the water into froth. Huge waves would for a moment hang suspended between beach and sky in perfect curl, and then with a thunderous crash break upon the beach. Nansen, Yuki's faithful husky, kept busy sneaking up on each huge wave. Bravely he approached it, then as the waves smashed on the beach, he turned and scurried back to his master. A Siberian Eskimo, Yuki lived in the small village of Gombel on the western edge of the Sevulko Island. The island, named St. Lawrence in English, belonged to the state of Alaska, yet it was only about 30 miles from Siberia in the Bering Sea, far from the coast of Alaska itself. Gamble consisted of a few low-slung houses strung along the long, narrow peninsula jutting into the sea. On the southern edge of the village, countless storms had left a large lake behind a high bar of sand. The village nestled against a steep mountain, guarding the way to the east and the rest of the island. Yuki sat deep in thought. This is not a good day. Why would my parents give me away to my grandparents? I am 10 years old and love my home. But now I'm being moved into my grandparents' house. His father had tried to explain this tradition to him. It is part of our heritage, my son, he said. On our island, parents often give away their firstborn son to the grandparents. Then they will have someone to look after them in their old age. Yuki spoke out loud to no one in particular. It doesn't make it any easier. Even though he loved his grandparents, it didn't make him feel any better. Who are you talking to? A voice behind him startled him from his thoughts. He looked back to see his little sister Pony. Oh, nothing, he sighed. I was just thinking that tonight I move into grandfather's house. I'm having a hard time, I guess. Huh? She retorted with little sympathy. Now I'll have to work my head off doing all your jobs. I'll have to carry water and empty the honey bucket, waste bucket, and do all the dirty jobs. Besides, Pony said, trying to cheer her brother, tomorrow we can collect sea peaches and murex. I can hardly wait. Pony was right. Tomorrow would be a good day. Yuki looked at the sky. In this village on the edge of the Arctic Circle, the summer sun never set. It shone almost as brightly as midnight as at noon. Yuki stood. His stomach told him it was time to eat. Well, I might as well get used to it, he said to Pony. As they walked to the village, I'll have to spend the rest of my life in a new home. The two children returned to the village as Nudson trailed along behind. At the center of the little cluster of houses, Yuki paused. He was tempted to return with his sister to his parents' home for just one more night, but he remembered what his father had said. Instead, he turned and walked a few steps to a small house standing alone at the edge of the village. He stooped and entered the low covered porch, the entrance to the humble home of his grandparents. The home was small, made of driftwood from the beach and chinked with dirt. His grandfather greeted him warmly. "Welcome to our home, Yuki. We are glad you will be living with us." Grandfather was a man of few words, and Yuki knew he was trying to make him feel comfortable. Grandmother gave him a warm smile and motioned for him to sit for a meal. The fresh seal meat looked delicious, and Yuki sat cross-legged on the floor to wait his turn. She handed him a small knife called a ula. He chose a large piece of meat, put it in his mouth, and with the ulu, deftly sliced it off close to his lips. As he chewed contentedly, he mused, "Perhaps it won't be so bad after all." Yuki awakened the next morning to the sound of voices. When he looked up, he saw Puni in the kitchen talking to grandmother. Dressing quickly, he grabbed some dried seal meat, and with Puni following close behind, headed for the beach. A bright sky and a calm sea made it a perfect day for food gathering. The two children scampered from place to place, picking up sea peaches and placing them in a small sack made of sealskin. Sea peaches aren't fruit as we think of peaches. They are little animals that attach themselves to rocks at the bottom of the ocean. When storms break them loose, they wash up on the beaches. Their tops are the color of peaches, and they look like large mushrooms. When Yuki and Puni finally stopped to rest, they each chewed on one of the tasty treats. With their sacks full of sea peaches, the two turned their attention to collecting eggs. A murre is a large fish-eating duck that lives in the Arctic during the summer. These ducks nest on the cliffs and ledges by the millions. Their eggs are large, speckled green and blue in color, and are delicious, though very fishy tasting. Yuki loved to clamber up and down the steep cliffs collecting the eggs. He instructed his sister Puni, "This is dangerous, and I don't want you to get hurt. You wait by the basket, and I will bring the eggs to you." Puni's lower lip trembled. "I'm old enough to climb cliffs. I'm not a baby," she pouted. "You mind what I say. Stay here by the basket," he commanded. He carefully crawled out onto the little ledges, removed the eggs from the nests, and filled each small sack before returning to Puni, who faithfully guarded the eggs. The sky was black with hundreds of distraught mer parents flying back and forth, often diving close to Yuki's head. Far below, the waves splashed on the beach. "One more trip and I'm done," Yuki yelled to Puni as he inched his way on the small ledge. Suddenly, a small rock hit him on the shoulder. Glancing up, he saw his sister's small legs appear at the top of the cliff. "Puni," he shouted, "what are you doing? Get back!" "I'm coming down to where you are," she yelled over her shoulder, lowering her small body down to a ledge. She edged along to another spot where she could climb down. "No, Puni, no," Yuki repeated. "You're going to get hurt." At that very moment, her foot slipped. He watched horrified as his little sister vainly grabbed handsful of rocks and dirt. Then her body fell past him, bouncing, scraping, and finally coming to rest on a small ledge below. Pony! Pony! He screamed. As he scrambled down the cliffs, he watched for any sign of life from his little sister. She lay motionless. Was she dead?
We want to thank Pastor Brian for the stories that he's doing for us and everything. And he's doing a little better, but we need to keep him in our prayers. That's right, Dawg. And we'll be bringing you chapter 2 next week. We'll see what happens to Poonie. Now then, think about this. You know, there are a number of birds out there that are classified as scavengers. And this is because they eat dead animals, garbage, and other waste. Duh, okay. I know what you're talking about, Brother D. Uh, Vultures and buzzards are perhaps the best known. That's right, Dawg. As you drive along the highways, you may see them huddled beside the body of some animal that's been killed by a passing car. And the task that they perform is a service to nature. I never thought about that, Brother D. Well, think about this. Buzzards and vultures are not equipped to kill for food. You see, their claws and beaks are inadequate for that. So, they rarely attempt to kill living animals. Consequently, they are also unable to defend themselves physically. They must use other means of protection. Yeah, I know somebody who got puked on by a buzzard as he tried to catch it. That's right, Dawg. That's one of the things. In order to be able to take off, the buzzard has to basically empty its stomach, and that's its defense. It spews that all over you. But you stop and think. Vultures and buzzards are not the only scavengers among birds. Gulls are scavengers as well, and very important ones. You often see them at city dumps and, of course, along the coast where they clean up garbage as well as dead animals. So, gulls are thus considerable are of considerable value in preventing pollution in harbors and everything. But not all gulls are scavengers. I didn't know that, Brother D. That's right. Some feed largely on insects. Now, when the Mormons established their first settlement in Utah, their first crops were lost to millions of black crickets. Oh man, that made for some tough times, didn't it? That's right, Dawg. And you see, when the crickets returned to following growing season and everything, gulls came by the thousands to devour the insects. And this saved the settlers from starvation. Oh man, that that was a good thing, wasn't it, Brother D? Well, here's the thing, Dawg. A $40,000 monument was erected in Salt Lake City to commemorate that event. Oh, a monument to the gulls. Well, it was to commemorate the gulls saving the settlements and everything. But you stop and think. There are many ways that our God, in His infinite love, has made life on this earth possible, in spite of all the sin and corruption that is so common. Duh. Hard to think that they be life from corruption. Well, that's the thing. Scavengers actually find their life from the corruption around them, you know. And Jonah, he felt that he had found life from the very pit of corruption around himself. He barely escaped death in the bottom of the sea simply by repenting and praying to God and everything and asking for forgiveness. Yeah, I never thought about that either, Brother D. He really messed up, didn't he? Well, that's the thing. Jonah was told to go to Nineveh, and instead he jumped on a ship and headed the other direction. He started heading for Tarsus. And instead, what happened? God sent a storm, and when the sailors found out that Jonah was the cause, they tossed him overboard when Jonah told them to. That's right, Dawg. Jonah told them they had to toss him overboard. And he never actually hit the water. God provided that big fish to catch him and swallow him. And you stop and think. He was in that fish's belly for about 3 days or so, and he was basically praying, and he realized that God had a plan. Now, we ourselves, sometimes our lives seem pretty corrupt, but You know, the God who provides the scavengers to, you know, can provide and salvage you from this world. So it's one of those things. You have to trust God. And many times people do not trust God like they should. Duh. But that's the thing. Jonah, if he'd done what he was supposed to have done, he wouldn't have got swallowed by the fish. Yeah, but at the same time, his faith probably wouldn't have been made stronger, and he wouldn't have realized just how much God had done for him. Jonah was a prophet, but he didn't want to go to Nineveh because Nineveh was a hated city by the Israelites. But he did what he was told, and that's one of the things. Many times we don't seem to be doing what we're supposed to be doing. We don't want to listen to what God has to say because it's not what we want. So sometimes we have to remember we have to give up what we want and everything in order to get ahead with what God wants for our lives. And God always has a plan. He doesn't promise us that we'll be free from any trials or tribulations. He doesn't promise us that it's going to be a bed of roses. Sometimes there's going to be a thorn or two along the way. And that's where our faith and trust in God will get us through. And Jonah 2:6 says, I went down to the moorings of the mountains. The earth with its bars closed behind me forever. Yet you have brought up my life from the pit, O Lord, my God. Duh, I never thought about it, but you stop at that, Brother D. If we turn it over to God and everything, He can clean up our lives. That's right, dog. We may sometimes slip and fall back into those bad habits or whatever, but as long as we remain faithful, God will be true to us, and He will give us the strength to overcome. It may take a little doing, and sometimes like you said, we slip and fall, but God's right there to help us get back up and start all over again. And when you have a father like that, how can you not fail? Duh, that's one of the things, Brother D. You need to look at the time. You're right, dog. It is time to go. Let us end with a word of prayer. Father, we thank you for this day, and we thank you once again for our many blessings. Father, as always, we lift up the firefighters, the EMTs, the doctors and nurses, the law enforcement officers, those first responders who work tirelessly to keep us safe. As always, Father, we lift up our armed forces, the ones who protect us so we may worship you as we see fit. Be with their families because they also serve, even though they're not out there on the front lines. They have to suffer while their loved ones are keeping us safe. Father, we are grateful for the many blessings you've given us this week. Once again, we ask that you be with those that are traveling today. Please keep them safe. We are grateful for our many blessings, and the first of which was we woke up. But the greatest blessing is the blessing you gave us, our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, in whose name I pray. Amen. Folks, if you like what you hear on the radio, you can call us at 434-390-5981. That's 434-390-5981. That's right, folks, or you can email us at emtx3xl@gmail.com. Again, that is emtx3xl@gmail.com. Folks, we'd like to remind everybody WGFW is a Christian radio station and it's in need of your support. Please send your donations to God's Final Call and Warning, P.O. Box 361, Chatham, Virginia 24531. Again, that's God's Final Call and Warning, P.O. Box 361, Chatham, Virginia 24531. Folks, remember, you don't hear any commercials on this radio station. It's here and it depends solely on you for its support. That's right. And we'd like to thank Safe Haven Ministries for sponsoring Storytime. And folks, we're grateful that you've given us the last 6 years to be on the air. Once again, this is WGFW 88.7 on the FM dial, Drakes Branch, Virginia. The time is 9:45. We return you to the regular broadcast. Folks, may your week be blessed.